Big developments on Newey's future as Aston Martin signs a new CTO, Daniel's lackluster performances are costing him a seat at Red Bull, and Carlos Sainz still has his sights on the Mercedes seat. Do consider subscribing to the channel. So let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Daniel Ricciardo is hoping VCARB find a big hole in his car after a lackluster P13 at the British GP that could scupper his chances of a Red Bull promotion. Despite almost weekly reports claiming his F1 future was on the line, Ricciardo's top 10 performances in Canada and Austria are said to have been noted by Red Bull team boss Christian Horner with a potential mid-season driver swap on the cards. It is understood there are clauses in Ricciardo and Sergio Perez's contract that allow for such a swap, with the latter's clause reportedly based on his deficit to Max Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship. If it's more than 100 points by the summer break, it is understood Red Bull can drop Perez and put another driver in the car. Neither, though, had a good weekend at the British Grand Prix. Ricciardo qualified P15, where he was 7/10 slower than his VCARB teammate Yuki Tsunoda, but it was worse for Perez, who was 19th after beaching his car in Q1. Ricciardo went on to finish the Grand Prix in 13th place on a day when Tsunoda added to his points tally. As for Perez, he was P17 with Max Verstappen up in second place. Ricciardo is hoping VCARB discovers something wrong with his car, especially as he wasn't able to keep pace with the Williams of Logan Sargent. "Hopefully there's a big hole in my car that I haven't seen yet, and that's the reason why we're really slow," he said. "We honestly, just as a team, for sure we struggle here. Looking at the Williams at the end on that stint, and Sargent pulled away from me, and I believe Alex Albon came and passed Tsunoda. Yuki got a point, he did well, but I think as a team we weren't very competitive this weekend." Ricciardo revealed his biggest issue wasn't so much a problem with the car, but that it simply lacked pace. "My engineer asked me what am I missing? What do I need? And I felt like I was saying, the balance and stuff was actually okay, feel like we're just lacking load," he said. "That's why, when I heard the lap times of the others, I was quite confused because I did the lap, and the lap felt pretty clean. A few little things, but felt decent. I was close to the potential of the car, and that's when I was like, I don't really have an answer right now. Watching the other cars in front, I felt the high speed they were really able to pull away a little bit more. So probably my explanation is, we're lacking a bit of load. Downforce is king, but I think there's still things we missed, or my assumption is we missed some things just with our car and optimizing it. We have to, looking forward, make everything better, but right now with what we had. Probably still with setup, there's maybe a couple of things myself and the team are maybe not quite grasping. Ricciardo will, according to reports, have to wait another 2 races to learn his fate, both for 2024 and next season, as Red Bull and VCARB will sit down during the summer break to discuss their driver lineups. Ted Kravitz believes Adrian Newey is obviously joining a rival team when he leaves Red Bull, the pit lane reporter having noted Newey sketching rivals' upgrades on the Silverstone grid. Red Bull announced in May that this season would be Newey's last with the Formula One team, the design guru set to leave in the first quarter of 2025. Calling time on almost 2 decades with Red Bull, which included 7 drivers and 6 constructors' championships, and the potential for more to come, Newey made it clear from the get-go that he doesn't know if his final season with Red Bull will also be his last in Formula One. The 65-year-old spoke of being tired, a Forrest Gump level of tired, and said one day he may be standing in the shower and have a eureka moment as to his future goals, but now he wants a break from the all-consuming world of Formula One. But alternating his time between relaxing holidays in an Aston Martin DB6, no hints there, and working on Red Bull's RB17 hypercar, Newey has also been present at a few races. One of those was Silverstone, and it's there that Kravitz noted what he believes is the biggest clue yet as to which way the design legend is leaning. "I've got to tell you about Adrian Newey," he said in his post-race Ted's notebook, "who amazingly is still coming to races, is amazingly still going around the Red Bull garage, looking at the car that he's not in charge of anymore with his notebook and making notes about the Red Bull to take to wherever he's going. And he's on the grid sketching designs of what everybody else is doing, and all the upgrades that every other team is bringing and thinking about. I'm going to take these." So clearly, whoever said that they think Adrian Newey is going to retire are wrong. And he's obviously going somewhere else, because why would you be coming here and making notes about other people's cars? But if that is the case, the next question is, which team will be fortunate to sign the design legend? Although Ferrari were said to be leading the early running, Of late, it is Aston Martin who have emerged as the favorites, with Newey even reportedly visiting the team's factory. So, wherever he goes, whether it's Aston Martin or Ferrari, or less likely now I think Williams or Mercedes or McLaren, he's clearly still turning up in Red Bull gear preparing for his future job. Kravitz continued. I know he's not allowed in Red Bull meetings anymore, but I did think it was quite interesting that he is still around. As for when F1 can expect an announcement from the much-lauded technical guru, Newey told Sky F1, I don't know. At the moment, I'm just kind of still working on the RB17 and then just taking some time off. Asked if by autumn-winter time he'll know what's next, he replied, That's certainly a target. By then I'll need to make my mind up. Ralf Schumacher believes there is a great chance Carlos Sainz will sign with Mercedes, so much so he can almost see him alongside George Russell. Sainz was linked to Mercedes months ago, when many a report suggested a straight swap between himself and the Ferrari-bound Lewis Hamilton. That though came to naught when Toto Wolff withdrew from the negotiations, the team boss making it known he first wants to see how Mercedes Jr. Kimi Antonelli progresses in Formula 2. He said as per Formula Passion.it. We had talks with Carlos Sainz, going so far as to talk about the conditions of a possible agreement. But we came to the decision that we would not confirm our choice until the autumn. Not wanting to mess Sainz around, Wolff decided it was better to withdraw from the negotiations. But months later he admitted Sainz could still be an option, the caveat being that the Spaniard would have to wait until Mercedes are ready to make a decision. And their decision hinges on Antonelli's F2 performances, Max Verstappen's desire to stay with Red Bull, and then Sainz's availability. Calling Sainz a sure value, especially in a very tight championship, Wolff told Mundo Deportivo that the 29-year-old would be a sure bet, and that yes, he is still an option. But, and the details are always in the but, if we have more time to decide, Carlos is definitely still a chance, but Carlos needs to make a decision on what he does with the other teams. Schumacher, though, still sees it happen. Conceding to Sky Deutschland that it is becoming a little difficult for the Spaniard as teams secure their 2025 drivers, he explained, People thought he would definitely be at Williams, but it seems he's not there anymore. At Alpine, perhaps. But he suddenly has a great chance at Mercedes because Toto says a few things have changed again. That's why I almost see him alongside George Russell. According to reports, Williams, tired of waiting on Sainz, have turned their attention to their former driver Valtteri Bottas, with team boss James Vowles telling the media that, fundamentally, yes, Williams do have a B plan. As for Sainz, the Spaniard won't be rushed into making a decision, even if he is proving to be the cork in the driver market bottle. I'm going to take all the time possible that I can to make such an important decision because it involves the outcome of the next few years of my life, he said. I think it's valid for me to give myself the time. Lando Norris admitted his frustration at having thrown away something that should have been ours at Silverstone, on another occasion where McLaren appeared to be in a position to win. Norris finished third at his home race on Sunday after having led heading into the final round of pit stops, but a drying track combined with a slower pit stop for the McLaren driver enabled Lewis Hamilton to take the lead in the closing stages, a position he would hold on to until the checkered flag. While Norris has earned a reputation for being self-critical when not getting the results he feels his potential in races merits, he admitted that he did not believe that the final strategy call to move on to soft tires when a new set of mediums was available was the correct one. But with this having been his 6th podium in the last 8 races, many of which in rounds where he felt he could have won either side of his first Grand Prix victory in Miami, the McLaren driver admitted his disappointment at not standing on the top step of the podium at his home race. I've heard that a lot lately, so I hate saying it again, Norris told media when asked if the British Grand Prix was a potential victory that got away. I mean, so many things were going well. We threw it away in the final stop. I think even if I boxed on the perfect lap, our decision to go onto the softs was the wrong one. I think Lewis still would have won no matter what, so 2 calls from our side cost us everything today. So, especially here, pretty disappointing. McLaren and Red Bull appear to be being joined in their fight at the front of the field by Mercedes, with the Silver Arrows having won each of the last 2 races, and Hamilton and George Russell having locked out the front row at Silverstone this weekend. He expects the fight at the front to be an interesting one moving forward, but acknowledged his frustration at not having converted more opportunities for victories so far this season, as well as the significant progress McLaren have made to be in a front-running position in the first place. There's many of us in the fight, so I expect it to be good battles, Norris said. I'm sure Ferrari at some point will get their act together and come back, but clearly we also weren't quick enough today. I think when it was completely dry, the Mercedes was a lot quicker, so we have work to do. We still had a weekend where we've clearly been the quickest. We've always been there or thereabouts, but never the car, and I think we need to keep working as a team. I need to keep working on my own stuff and just try and put it together, because there are still so many positives, there are so many good things and so many things in place. But frustrating when a few times this season we've thrown away something that should have been ours. Martin Brundle admitted seeing Sergio Perez go through a torrid time of late has been painful to watch, with the Red Bull driver struggling for form. Perez has picked up just 15 points in the last 6 races for Red Bull and was lapped twice at Silverstone at the weekend as a gamble to move to intermediate tires backfired as early rain did not fall any harder than anticipated, leaving him on incorrect tires for the conditions and out-of-points contention. Concerns over the form of Perez have even led to questions over his future with Red Bull, despite having signed a new 2-year deal with the team earlier this season. Brundle pointed to 2 near-identical moments for the 2 Red Bull drivers that summed up the differences in luck the pair are having alongside their pace this season, but added that if Perez did not have the backing he brings with him to the team from a commercial perspective, there is a chance they may have looked elsewhere for Verstappen's next teammate, though added the balancing point comes with wanting him on the grid for his home race later this year. It's painful to watch, isn't it? Brundle said on the Sky Sports F1 podcast about Perez's recent form. I asked Christian Horner in press on Friday, did he regret signing Sergio up so early again? Christian thought was a brutal question, but I thought it was a relevant question at the time. And he more or less said, look, we thought he was going through some difficult times. We thought the security of a new contract would calm things down a little bit, and he'd be off again as he's done in the past and get it back together. But he's going through a torrid time. A good example is in qualifying. Both Red Bulls went off at Copse when it was raining a bit, almost in an identical way. Sergio ended up backwards into the gravel and out of qualifying. Max somehow kept it all pointing in the right direction, tippy-toed through the gravel, broke a bit of the underneath of the car onto the service road, lived for another day. And that's the difference when it's running for you and you're confident. You're on top of the game, you sort it out. When it's not, you have that silly, clumsy spin, and I can relate to that completely. So he must think, what's going to happen to me next, you know? And when they had a totally dominant car, he could be a couple of or 3/10 off Max. There was nobody to fill the gap. Now there are 2 McLarens, now 2 Mercedes-Benz, and from time to time, some Ferraris to fill the gap between him and his teammate, and that's putting him under pressure, and that pressure is then just making it far worse. To score 15 points in a Red Bull in 6 races, as you said, is shocking, and we've seen that team biff off Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Jean-Eric Vergne, and many, many other young drivers, despite going far better than that. So we know that it's commercially attractive to them. We know that he's a good foil for Max. He's normally fast enough to do a good job and bring some relevant information. Not fast enough to bother Max particularly, and it works for them, and they've won both championships. But all of a sudden, they've got some rivals on hand. They can't comfortably win the Constructors' title without Sergio being on tip-top form, and so the ground rules are changed in that respect, and you wonder how long they'll be able to cope with this. But you know, with the sponsorship, with Red Bull's commerciality in North and South America, with the Mexican Grand Prix yet to come, would you really not want Sergio Perez on the grid? So that's the balancing point. If he was driver B and none of that commerciality or nationality or whatever mattered, they would have replaced him, wouldn't they? Let's be honest. Aston Martin have appointed former Ferrari chassis technical director Enrico Cardile as their F1 chief technical officer, following his departure from the Scuderia. Ferrari announced Cardile's departure on Monday after an extended period with the team, but he will be making the move to pastures new from 2025 after a period of gardening leave. Cardile will take on his role next year as Aston Martin builds up its technical staff further, with the team confirming this is a new role within the senior technical group at the Silverstone-based constructor. Cardile said, "I'm looking forward to joining Aston Martin Aramco. The ambition and desire are clear, and it is a unique opportunity to be part of that journey. This is a personal and professional challenge, and I look forward to working with the team to bring success to this iconic brand." Team owner Lawrence Stroll added, I would like to welcome Enrico to Aston Martin Aramco, as we look to reinforce the technical leadership team ahead of significant regulation changes in 2026. I am thrilled that we continue to attract world-class talent to our team. Enrico shares my motivation to be successful in F1 and will have all the resources available to him to realize that ambition. Together with Andy Cowell joining as Group CEO in October and our existing leaders, we are creating a formidable team. Team Principal Mike Crack said, "I am delighted to welcome Enrico to Aston Martin Aramco. Enrico has nearly 20 years of experience at Ferrari and will offer a fresh perspective to our technical strategy. This is a key appointment for the team as we build towards the new 2026 regulations, an important next step on our journey." Ferrari had confirmed Cardill's departure on Monday, with team principal Fred Vasseur set to take on his chassis and aerodynamic duties as an interim measure while they recruit a replacement. Cardill had first joined Ferrari after collaborating with them on an aerodynamic project with the brand, before overseeing aerodynamic projects in their GT program from 2005, making the move to their Formula One team in 2016 as head of aero development, later moving up to technical director of chassis and aerodynamics. Oscarpiastri has been told to bang his fist on the table and tell McLaren no more after the call not to double stack him at Silverstone cost him a possible win. Lining up third and fifth for the British Grand Prix with Lando Norris ahead of his teammate, the McLarens found themselves first and second as their MCL38 stuck to the track when the rain came down. But separated by less than 2 seconds, when it finally came time to swap their slicks for intermediates, McLaren had to decide between double stacking the drivers or leaving Piastri out for another lap. They went with the second option, and as the Aussie slipped and slid his way around the track, he lost time to the frontrunners and was down in 6th place after his pit stop. He recovered to finish 4th, but it was a case of what could have been had McLaren made a better strategy call. Dutch pundit Jack Pluijay says it's time for Piastri to tell his team no more, as this isn't the first time since joining McLaren that a strategy call has gone against him. What Oscar still misses a bit, but I think I will give him a course sometime, is that he always remains so cool, Pluijay told Ziggo Sport Race Cafe. It's not just about the onboard radios, but about the debriefs. It's time for him to bang his fist on the table. At times when he is being victimized, he must tell the team, "We are not going to do this anymore, friends." We're going to give him a course. McLaren team boss Zak Brown admits in hindsight, McLaren got it wrong at Silverstone, not only not double stacking Piastri, but also by putting Norris on the wrong tires for the final stint. He also lost out on a possible win, finishing third behind Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. It was tough. Hindsight's 20/20, as they say. I think we ultimately got it wrong, he said as per the official F1 website. I think both our drivers could have won there. They did an excellent job. When you're leading the race, you also have to kind of take the first decision, so it's a little bit easier to key off of what others did, when early on Lando and Oscar were right next to each other. Obviously, if you double stack them, you're going to lose about 5 seconds. Turns out Oscar lost a lot more time because the track was deteriorating, so losing the 5 seconds there would have been a better call, but again, you don't really know because you're the lead car, so you're going to be the first to find out the weather. And then there at the end, I think maybe mediums would have been a better strategy, as we saw on Oscar. Oscar was absolutely flying there. Max was flying on the hards, and softs were going to struggle. We had a set of mediums, so we'll just go back and review it. I think the upside is we got more points than all of our competitors. We were on the podium. It was an exciting race. You need to make sure as well that when you review, that it's good learning for everyone involved. So, we review, learn, and we go again. McLaren closed the gap to Ferrari to just 7 points in the Constructors' Championship with their 3-4 finish at Silverstone. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. See you in the next one.